It's Richard Mills from Upschool here. For more amazing free lessons like this one, create a free account at upschool.co, and we can't wait to see you on our platform.
Okay, good evening, everybody. From me, Gavin McCormack here at Upschool, and thank you, everybody, for taking the time to attend this webinar this evening. It's truly an honor to have you here. We have schools from all around the world, from India, from North America, South America, from the Middle East, from all over the world attending this wonderful webinar and seminar. And we're very fortunate this evening to be, it's really a delight, really a treat to have Susan McLean here. I've known Susan for many years, actually as a school principal myself. Susan presented a workshop to all of my families at school on how they could keep their children safe in a world where we are completely surrounded by the internet, by online gaming, and the World Wide Web. And it's a very important issue at the moment, especially around protecting our youngest students and citizens as they embark on this journey of moving into a kind of digital world. Now, just to introduce Susan, Susan is a prominent figure when it comes to this area of expertise. She's Australia's foremost expert in the area of cyber safety and was a member of the Victorian Police Force for 27 years. She's actually widely known for her catchphrase or her nickname as the Cyber Cop, but don't be afraid. She was the first Victorian police officer appointed to a position involving cyber safety in young people in 2003, and she was Victorian Police Region 4 Youth Officer. She has also been awarded the National Medal for the Victoria Police Services, and she is an absolute legend. And I don't know what we would do without her in actual fact, because there are many of us sitting in the dark. We send our children off to play on these games and apps thinking they're completely safe. But a couple of years ago, when she presented to my school community, there was a huge meeting the very next day where the parents rallied together and said, no more of this, and we don't want to go any more of that. We didn't realize that that was actually happening right under our noses. So, Susan, we are honored, privileged, and very thankful for you giving up your time. I know you're a very busy lady, but this is going to change the mindsets and the, I guess, the outlook of how we look at the internet and technology with our students. And I will hand it over to you to take the reins. Thank you, Susan.
Thanks very much, Gavin, and it's lovely to be part of this Upschool presentation this evening. My name is Susan McLean, as you heard. I have been dealing with the internet in its many incarnations since February 1994, which is when I took my first report of cyberbullying as a Victorian police officer. And I can tell you that in February 1994, I didn't own a mobile phone, and I wasn't unusual. Victoria Police were not connected to the internet, and I had never, ever contemplated that any person would work out or even want to misuse what I considered this amazing invention of the internet. So that first case of cyberbullying in February 1994 involved a group of Year 8 schoolgirls here in Australia, so around the age of 13 and 14 years. They'd had a falling out. One of the girls that didn't like this particular girl anymore went online, visited an adult sex chat room and posted an ad. So basically offered this other girl for free sex. They put her name, her address, and her phone number in an adult sex chat room. We had to move the family into a motel and then a rental property for their safety because we couldn't stop the stream of men knocking on the door looking for their 13-year-old daughter. So that, I suppose, changed my thinking about technology. It forced me to accept that with the good came the bad. And then I set out on a journey that brings me to you tonight. And that journey has taken me right around the world. I was very honoured to have been invited to America, where I trained with the FBI. I worked with the Dallas ICAC team, so that's the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force team. So if you're in America, you'll be very aware of the local ICACs that do amazing jobs. I came back. I've completed a university course at the University of Central Lancashire in the UK, another one at Fox Valley Technical College and the University of New Hampshire, both in the States. So I left the police force 12 years ago, and my mission now is to educate, to prevent. And I will see the internet in a very different way than you will see the internet. I get to deal with the risks and the dangers every single day. And what we must accept first and foremost as an adult is that any children that are ours or those that we educate are going to be pretty good at using tech, even if they've never had any formal lessons on how to manage a tablet or an iPad. Because the technology is so intuitive, they will be able to navigate around and use it. What we also know is that their cognitive and brain development does not align with their technical skills. So that makes young people the primary vulnerable population. I spent 11 months conducting research on this for Victoria Police, and I ran the Victoria Police Cyber Safety Project. It's still to this day the only piece of research that law enforcement in Australia has ever done that looked at the issue of online safety in young people and what did those in law enforcement and in education and the parents and carers need to know in order to prevent and protect. It doesn't matter where you're listening to this presentation, the internet and www has no barriers. So children can be easily found no matter where they are geographically situated. And what we know is when historically geographic isolation could be, not always, but could be a protective factor in keeping young people safe, that's gone now with the internet. And if these young people do not have an adult that's switched on, is there with them, is helping them make those good choices, it's not going to end well. So I am going to go through a whole lot of different things with you this evening, the things that I deal with every single day. And the work that I do now, if you had said to me 12 years ago when I was still in the police force that I would present to over 250,000 students in person on any given year right around the world, I could not have believed you. If you had said to me I would write teaching resources for the Victorian Education Department, I would not have believed you. I'm now a published author. I must say that I've sent a copy of each of my books to my Year 12 English teacher because I just felt that they needed that acknowledgement in getting me to where I am now. And it is many years since I completed Year 12, I can tell you that. So I work a lot with schools, obviously, both in Australia and internationally. I also consult to different organisations. So I work with hospitals, paediatricians, psychologists, psychiatrists, and general practitioners. I do a lot of corporate work. So a lot of corporates will engage me to provide sessions that they will then feed out to their employees. And I do a lot of media because I want to make sure that the right information is being shared. So let me make sure this is going to click. Here we go. If you use any of these platforms, this is where you'll find me. And I put stuff out all the time about things that are topical, things that I'm seeing, bearing in mind that some things do trend. So something or a particular app or a platform that may be an issue in one country might not be an issue in another country. However, there will be an app of a different name doing the same sort of thing that will be problematic. So we do see some trends. And I know when I work with schools in America, lots of young people will have a Twitter account. They're not really fussed about Twitter here in Australia, for example. So there's a few little different nuances, but the reality is if they're a young person and they're using technology, the risks and the potential harms are going to be the same. You can contact me through any of these platforms. I am not a crisis line though. So, if it is an emergency, if it is a dire situation, if there is a child at risk, you must ring 911, 111, 000, whatever your local emergency number is. But if it's a general question, I will do my best to get back to you and answer those questions when I can. For me, the use of the internet is all about 3 words: respect, responsibility, and reputation. So what we want young people to do is to think first rather than react afterwards, because once stuff is out there, it is often nigh on impossible to remove. So rather than do something, then reflect on it and realize it wasn't so good, what I prefer is that we think first. So the 3 words that I use, I call them the 3 R's: respect, responsibility, and reputation. Is what I'm about to do showing respect to myself, my body, and others? Is what I'm about to do responsible? So that's very different to can I do something? Because you can do whatever you like by pressing a button. But is this actually what I should be doing online? And lastly, how is this going to affect my reputation? If someone took this picture or this comment or this post and used it as a way to judge me rightly or wrongly, how would it look for me? And this is the problem that we're seeing time and time again. Young people have always made mistakes. And if you are an adult listening to this, you all made mistakes as well growing up, the same as I did. But for me, there is no digital record of those mistakes. Young people today are growing up in a world where people film first, take screenshots, and ask questions second. So we have to protect them from their own vulnerabilities where we can. One of the things that I will always talk about, I get a lot of back pushing for this. I will never change. All the platforms, whether you like them or not, will have a set of rules. Those rules are called T's and C's. And, if you are listening from America, you've got the COPPA Act, which is actually a law, but over here it works as a T's and C's. What we want you to do as a caring adult is to check those T's and C's first before you allow your child access to any platform. You will find that they will all have an age listed. So they're not my rules, they're not the government's rules. They're the rules of the platform, the state. If you are not this age, you cannot use this platform. You are the gatekeepers to your child's online world. And no is a very important word. And as Gavin said at the start, after I spoke to his parents, a whole group of them got together and made a conscientious collective decision that they were all going to say no together. And that way they were all working together to keep all children safer longer. Now, it's pretty simple. Everything's 13, so you don't have to worry about multiple ages. And yes, I know children can lie. And yes, I know that the day they turn 13, they're probably just as at risk as the day they were 12. But it's not about that. It's about keeping them safer longer. And that is all we can do. Two things that keep children safe online by and large: the child's ability to make a good choice, and no matter what children tell you, they simply don't have that because their brain is not fully formed. And the fact that they have an involved parent or guardian at home helping them make that good choice. And this is where you have to be educated and empowered, and you have to be prepared to say no. You will never forgive yourself if you put your child in somewhere that is a known place of risk. We know how risky technology can be. Why would you put them there before they needed to be there? And why would you help them to lie to go there? And I know the arguments about everyone else is there or all their friends are there, but you know what? Really, who cares? Because you should be focusing on the safety of your children. If they're 13 or 14 or 15 or whatever, and they're online and they have a problem on Instagram, for example, well, that is an issue that we have to deal with. But we should never deal with 10-year-olds being groomed by pedophiles on Instagram, because they shouldn't have been there in harm's way to start with. And every single parent that I deal with whose child has been harmed online will all say the same things. If only I had said no, if only I had stayed strong. And I can tell you now, you don't want to feel those emotions at all, because you will never forgive yourself. So the advice is to get a group together. Support each other. It takes a village to raise a child. So connect with other like-minded parents and carers in your school, in your community, wherever you have a tribe, and all support each other, because that's the way more children will be safer online. So these are the sorts of things that your children will be exposed to because they are growing up in the 21st century. There are going to be digital reputation issues, cyberbullying, sharing of nude images, grooming by pedophiles, online pornography, problematic gaming, and violent content. And it is going to depend a lot about where your child is growing up, the culture in which they are growing up in, the access to technology. If you've got a really dodgy internet connection and they can't really live stream and download much, obviously some of these issues are going to be less. But even if they do not have these issues affecting them directly, they will hear about them. They will know about them. They will go onto the internet and read about them. Someone will tell them about them. So trying to be on the front foot is really, really important. And, what I always suggest people do, adults that care for children or teach them, is that you should be running your children's name through Google multiple times. Googling your children, see what you can find. What is out there? Is there something that can be linked back to your child that is particularly harmful? Have they been tagged in some sort of stupid activity that you're not even aware of? So learning how to get the best out of technology is so very important. And what I should say too is when I work with young people and I do student sessions, obviously that's not what we're getting tonight. So this is the adult session. If you are watching this or listening to this with children, of any age, it is not really suitable, but that's going to be your choice. But this is not what I do in schools with young people. I started around the age of 7 and I go right through to the end of high school, obviously with age and developmentally appropriate lessons. So we'll start off by talking about cyberbullying. And, there's a limit to what I can cover in the time that I have with you tonight. So I will also show you some of my resources where you can get more information. So cyberbullying is something that we've had for a very long time. Unlike schoolyard bullying of the past, it is now endemic through society. It's in primary school, secondary school, it's in universities, and it's in workplaces and the wider community. So it's not like I've finished high school and now I'm going to be safe from this, or I'm not going to be bullied or harassed. Like any form of bullying, it is a repeated action. So it's not an honest disagreement. It's not a difference of opinion. It's not something that might happen in isolation. But we know that if nasty messages are sent multiple times, they are not a mistake and they're not an accident. Therefore, we can call the term or the behaviour bullying. Cyberbullying does take many forms. Now, the most common type of cyberbullying is the nasty message, picture or post scenario. But sharing nude images can lead to cyberbullying, setting up fake accounts, spreading lies and rumours. You can join in. So you might not be the main bully, but you've come along and liked something, agreed with it, endorsed it, shared it, forwarded it. And in Australia, like in many countries of the world, cyberbullying is a criminal offence. Now, there are some places in the world where it is not a crime. And, I think this is an example of where laws and legislation, those wheels go very slow compared to how society is and how technology is moving. But even if the words cyberbullying are not in legislation, often this sort of behaviour can be fitted within stalking laws or harassment type laws. But I'm certainly aware of some countries that really have not addressed this as yet. And it's something that any lawmakers that are listening, if you don't have really robust laws to protect the vulnerable in relation to the digital space, we need you to be working on that now. If a young person that is being cyberbullied, the most important thing is to reassure them that it is okay to tell. Biggest barrier for young people getting help is their reluctance to ask for it. They have what I call irrational fears. They are very real fears to them, but they're scared of what will happen. They're scared of what you will say. They're scared of making it worse. They're scared of not being believed, all those sort of things. So we know that silence is the bully's best friend. So we need young people and adults to be brave, to have courage and tell. So reassure them that speaking up and telling you about this is the right thing to do. Ask to see what's happened, and we need to encourage the taking of screenshots or printing things out, because adults in authority, such as in a school or in a sport club, in a workplace, or the police, are going to want to see some sort of evidence. Make sure they don't respond. So we don't want them to get into this nasty tit for tat online name calling. Help them with technical solutions. So it may be that you block a phone number. It may be that you report the abuse back to the platform, then block the user. And it is so very important that you do it in that order. You must report the abuse first, then block the user. If you block the user first, you can't then report. If you're being harassed on WhatsApp, for example, when you go to block the phone number, it gives you a report option. So please make sure you use that. With text-based communication, you only have blocking, you don't have reporting. But we need to make sure that the platforms do what they're meant to be doing. And, some of them do it better than others. Most are not proactive, so they don't look for this sort of stuff and prevent it. They rely on you telling them about it, and then they're legally obligated to act. In Australia and in many Western type countries, schools have a legal obligation to deal with all forms of bullying involving their students, including cyberbullying. So if you're listening from Australia, it's absolutely imperative that the school is involved and informed about what's going on, but it's going to be different in different parts of the world. And this is where I find it's very difficult, because if the school has no obligation to help you really, and there's no laws and legislation, so you can't turn to the police, there's very little you can do other than hope that the platform does the right thing and removes it. And, in some cases that will work, in many it won't. So we have to agitate to do better, and we have to agitate to make sure that, laws are fit for purpose, and that includes laws governing education and workplaces, etc. Now I'm going to talk about sharing of nude images, which, when cameras were first put on phones, it was only adults that did this sort of stuff, because they were the only ones that had the devices. But now lots of little children have access to these devices. So the opportunity for them to engage in the behaviour is very real. I am dealing with children in primary school in Australia, so 8 and 9-year-olds, that have, for a variety of reasons, been convinced to share nude images on the internet. Now, I need to say up front that if your child uses technology, which they will in different ways, there is a risk associated with that. And there is a risk associated with every single thing your child does. They drink a glass of water, it could go down the wrong way and they might cough. So, it doesn't matter what they're doing, there is a risk associated with it. But what we have to understand with the internet is, yep, there's a risk, but we can't remove that risk. If they're going to use technology, we have to accept that there's a risk. But what we can do is be able to identify the risk, minimize and manage it. So the best way to ensure that these photos are not taken is to make sure devices with cameras and internet connections are never in bedrooms and bathrooms, because this is where these nude photos are being taken. They are not taken in the main living area of any house. They are not taken in a classroom. They are taken in places that adults can't see. So please make sure that you get those devices into a place where you can see them and you are supervising, because it is so easy for young people to click a button and make a very, very, very poor choice. Now, in most parts of the world, this behaviour, even though it involves children as potential offenders, is a crime, because a naked or a sexually explicit picture or video of a person under the age of 18 years is classed as child abuse material. So these laws were written to protect children from pedophiles, but now they're being used for often what is considered teenage behaviour or teenage choices. Dependent upon where in the world you are is going to depend on how police and law enforcement might view this sort of behaviour. And in some cases, children are charged exactly the same as pedophiles. In others, there's a level of discretion. In others, there's some clear amendments designed to protect children from their own poor choices. But the reality is that even if it's not 100% criminal, sharing of nude photos is not a good choice, because it will end in tears, because these images will get shared, they will get circulated, they will be posted to different websites, and they become a vehicle for teasing and bullying. Some other offences that sort of sit here are the harassment type of offences. So often it's that repeated harassing for photos, send a photo, take your clothes off. So any of that sort of repeated action online is mostly a crime, as well as being, not nice, hurtful and disrespectful. Sending unsolicited nude photos to anyone at any age is going to be a crime. But again, I don't know where you're listening from, and there are some countries where, law enforcement is not the go-to authority, sadly, to assist in these sorts of situations. So I do accept that reporting some of this to the police simply might not be an option for you. The next little bit talks about blackmail or sextortion, and I don't care where you are. This is such a huge issue in relation to young people that are being convinced to share nude photos, and then they are being blackmailed instantly. And every day last week, I received a message from a concerned parent somewhere telling me that this had happened to their child. I got one today. This mother had asked some advice about cyberbullying last week, and then today she messaged me to say that her 15-year-old son had been convinced to send a nude photo to someone he'd met online who he thought was a hot girl. And as soon as that person had the photo, the extortion and the blackmail started it. This was an article I posted on my Facebook page, and it had a huge response. This is a 17-year-old boy from California, Ryan, who connected with someone on the internet and shared a nude photo of himself with that person and was immediately sextorted for $5,000, threatening to make the photo public, send it to Ryan's family and friends. And tragically, less than 3 hours after the first demand for money, Ryan took his own life. And this is becoming common. It is so common, it is not funny, and it distresses me because it's not, a kid in a third world country making a poor choice, or it is just every single young person connecting to the internet is at risk of this type of behavior. Again, get the devices into places where you can see them. Is it going to stop this? No, it's not, but it certainly is going to reduce the ability for these offenders to ply their trade. Often when it's really young people as victims, the offenders won't ask for money because they know children don't have an income stream. So what they will ask for is more content. So if you don't want me to send this photo to your friends or family, I need 10 photos of you in the shower by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Because as you would be aware, there is a huge market for images of child abuse, and pedophiles can sell this on the black market and make a lot of money. So we know that mostly where they're blackmailed for money, these are organized criminal gangs that set up in call centers in Eastern Europe, Russia, and Africa, and basically just hammer the internet looking for their next victim. This is part of an email I got within half an hour of posting the article about Ryan. This has just happened to our 17-year-old son. The messages he has received via Snapchat were vile, threatening, and persistent. Unfortunately, before we knew and intervened, he paid $3,000 to these people. On my way home last night, he called me in such distress, asking to borrow money to make the next payment in the belief it would make it stop. But of course, they asked for more. I never want to hear that type of distress in my child's voice again. My heart is breaking. This 17-year-old had some money in the bank because he had a part-time job and he was saving up to buy a car. And he thought by paying the ransom, it would fix the problem, which of course it never does. This type of extortion or blackmail must be reported to law enforcement. It must. Do not try to deal with it on your own. Do not try to pay a ransom or pay your way out of it. It will not work. In 99.9% of cases, if you immediately block report and go to the police, they'll go find someone else. But please, please, please understand that this is such a significant issue. As I said, I got a message just this evening telling me of a similar story. Young people are gullible, they are vulnerable, they are trusting, and they are all things that, don't come naturally to young people. They come with time, they come with maturity, they come with life experiences, and even then sometimes they don't come. So we have to be there every step of the way where we can. Now, this was part of a news article that I filmed for Channel 7 News here in Australia last year, and it was off the back of some research that showed almost 70% of 12-year-olds had sent or received a nude image. And it's almost like normalizing the behavior now, where it's a currency, it's a trade. If you liked me, you would do this. If you want to prove you can trust me, you'd send it, etc., etc. So talk to your children about respect. Talk to them about respect for their body. Talk to them about the fact that they shouldn't base their self-worth on a naked body part photo. And people that harass them for these photos are not their friends. They are someone that is disrespecting them at the highest level. Now, aligned with this and the sharing of nude images comes the issue of online child sexual abuse, which in Australia, since the beginning of COVID, we have seen increase close to 400%. So it is, excuse me, a huge issue. Technology gives pedophiles access to children that they would have never, ever been able to access before because of location, because of the fact that they are protected, because of the fact that, they don't roam the streets at night. But now these people, through the press of a button, can instantly attach themselves to these trusting young people that simply think it's a good idea to make a new friend. It is opportunistic offending. So what I mean by that is mostly these people do not target a child specifically. So they don't go and look for your child as a potential victim. They put the bait out. It's like fishing, put the bait out, and then they hope that someone comes along and takes the bait. If that's your child, that's great. If it's not, it will be someone else. Young people are 100% insistent to me that they could pick a pedophile that they would know. But the reality is they would not know. These people don't identify themselves. They don't send your child a message. Hi, I saw your pic. You're nice and cute and I'm a child sex offender. Want to hang out with me? They're not going to set up an account on social media. Percy the pedophile. Interests, tennis, swimming, cricket and school children. Occupation, local child sex offender. So they are, of course, not nice people. But what we know is they start life being nice because that's how they suck kids in. So we need to make sure the best way to reduce the risk of this type of offending is to make sure that your children are not engaging online with people they don't know, because we can reduce 90% of the potential harms if we limit the online communication to someone they already know and trust. Please don't let your children use the term online friend. There is no such thing as an online friend. You either have a friend or you don't. An online friend is a term that children use to describe a random stranger that they don't know that's being nice to them, so I'll call them a friend. And as an adult, you know that that's not a friend. But if you are telling your brain someone is a friend, you are going to behave very, very differently than if you are telling your brain someone is a stranger. So these facts came out late last year. These are Australian facts. They were released for National Child Protection Week. But in reality, I quote statistics from right around the world in this space because, the only thing that changes are numbers in that, your country might have a much larger population than Australia. So your numbers will be greater or lesser depending on what we're talking about. If you have a smaller population, your numbers might be less, but your percentages will remain the same. So 21% of parents surveyed felt that they couldn't talk about this with their children. 15% wouldn't tell another family if this happened to their child, but this is the really concerning one. 80% of parents believe this would not happen to their child. I've had parents say to my face, I don't worry about pedophiles online. My kid's smart. I don't care how smart your kid is. These creeps are more cleverer than your child will ever be. They are very, 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 very good at what they do. Now, I want to play you a short video. It was put together by some sex crimes detectives in Queensland, Australia. The message is relevant no matter where in the world you are situated.
I've worked at Argos since 2001. In the last 18 years, I've seen everything from images and videos of young babies being sexually abused through to teenagers crying and distraught as they're sextorted on web cameras. If you'd seen what I've seen, you would never allow your child alone in their bedroom with an internet-capable device.
If you'd seen what I've seen, you'd think twice about posting those pictures. Once they're out there, you've lost control.
If you've seen what I've seen, I know that no parent would hand over a device to a child with blind trust and absolute ignorance.
If you've seen what I've seen, you'd tell your children that they can only talk to people online that they actually know, and they certainly shouldn't be meeting up with them.
If you've seen what I've seen, you would know that the internet and devices can be just as dangerous as driving a car. We teach our children to drive and be safe on the roads, and we need to be doing the same with our children and devices.
If you'd seen what I'd seen, you'd seriously think about what you're putting online, not just what your kids are posting. Putting pictures up online of your children might be cute to you, but it's attractive to others. It's really important for your kids to just always know that nothing is so bad that they can't talk to you about it.
All right, and I should have said at the start that at the end I'm happy to take questions, so we put in the questions in the chat. So as we go along, if you want to shoot a question in the chat, that's fine, but I won't be answering those questions until the end. So Task Force Argos in Australia is Queensland Police's Sex Crimes Unit, and they do amazing work, and they are just the messages that those detectives wanted to get out. The important one also is be mindful about what you post. You know, photos of cute little children are very attractive to the wrong sort of people. And pedophiles and predators will say, you know, there really isn't a lot of effort required to get a catalogue of images of cute kids because they are simply all over the internet. None of you would leave your front door wide open and allow a random person into your house to collect photos off the wall. So please make sure if you as an adult are using social media, you are protecting your children that you might take photos and post of, perfectly fine, but you need to do so with the knowledge that you need to be protecting them. Last year, I paired up with two forensic paediatricians here in Melbourne. They work at the Victorian Institute of Forensic Medicine. And we have started doing some educational sessions in hospitals, which is very exciting for me because to be invited to do a grand round is a huge honour, especially for a non-medical person. But we're trying to do this to get as much information out to those frontline clinicians about the reality of the digital space. So we did some articles in the media here in Australia just to try to educate the general population. The headline for this article is down the bottom there, how Jamie went from Snapchat hello to rape in 5 days. It is a beyond horrible story of a young girl in Melbourne who connected with a random person on the internet. He made her feel good about herself. He flattered her. He paid her compliments. She thought that, you know, he was her new best friend. And it only took 5 short days for him to convince her that they should meet up, which they did at a suburban railway station in Melbourne, where she was viciously raped 3 times. Now, there's a whole layer of things to this about not talking to people you don't know, not meeting people you don't know, not being on apps and platforms that allow alleged anonymous communication, such as Telenom, which is one of the apps that this creep used. But the mum in this case knew her daughter was talking to a stranger on the internet, but because her daughter placated her and seemed so happy, she let her daughter go to meet this person. So this is the reality. I don't want it to be your reality, regardless of where in the world you are located. But there is always someone out there waiting to pounce and commit these heinous crimes on young people. You know, yes, the police got the bad guy. What does that do? Well, it keeps him off the street for a while, might protect some other people, but it doesn't undo the harm. And that young girl and her family will live with that harm forever. And this is what drives me. I don't want anyone, to the best of my ability, to be headline news for the wrong reasons. This is another one in the series of articles that we did. Age 10, he was found on Fortnite and groomed on Snapchat. He's not alone. You know, this 10-year-old boy wasn't on anything because he's 10. He shouldn't be on anything. It's really simple. But the mum gave in and put him on Snapchat, and away we went. And what these forensic doctors found, and they've got 6 years of research, their main job is to do the medical examination of children that have been sexually assaulted, physically assaulted, or neglected. But they're getting data on where this is happening. Where did the connection get made? How did the offender find this young person? And it's interesting looking at what apps were used 6 years ago versus today, because obviously the percentage have changed dramatically. But there is one app that has been present in every single case that they have medically examined for 6 years, and that is Snapchat. It is not a safe place for young people to be. It's not even a safe place for teens to be. But teens, of course, legally can be there because they're 13. Please, please, please do not base the decision of where you put your children on your experience on the app. the algorithms that pump stuff out to you are going to be very different to your children. Same as TikTok, #1 app for sexual predators worldwide. You might find cute videos of God knows what, but that's not what your children will see. So we need you to be educated, empowered, and we need you to be brave and strong, because your child's safety and security is going to often be reliant on the fact that a parent actually said no. Capping was a term that was used a lot in the media here in Australia for World Safer Internet Day, which is a day, it's usually the second Tuesday in February, and it is celebrated right around the world, or it's noted right around the world. So capping comes from the term screen capturing, and it is one of the fastest growing trends in online child exploitation. So yes, we have the offender whose ultimate aim is to meet their child victim and engage in sexual activity with them. So the contact offending is what we would call that. But there is a subset of offenders who are quite happy to connect online. So some of them go on to contact offending, but many are satisfied by the fact that they can sit, like I'm sitting here talking to you, you can see me. I mean, I can't see you because webcams are turned off, but if I could see you, it would be that scenario. So they will watch their victim on a webcam, they will direct that young child to strip naked, to perform sex acts, whatever they want. They are then capturing that. So they're not just letting it roll, they're taking screenshots of it, they're recording it, and then they are using that to blackmail the young person. And I've seen chat logs where it only took 10 minutes of communication before a young child agreed to take their clothes off. One of the things that these creeps will do is often offer money or gifts. Now, they're not going to send a $5,000 mountain bike to your house, no matter where you might be living, because if a delivery driver from Amazon shows up with a mountain bike, you're going to be asking your child questions like, where did that come from? Oh, that was my new online friend that sent it to me. So that's not going to happen. So they are very good at convincing your child to do stuff with online money type things. So digital currency. So it might be a prepaid Visa card. It might be Robux, so money to spend in the Roblox game. It can be electronic gift cards. It can be mobile phone credit. So stuff that is super attractive to children and stuff that parents can't see because it is electronic and it comes in on the device. So be very mindful of the fact that your child might seem to, never run out of phone credit when they used to, or, some deliveries are coming from a fashion label and you're thinking, where did that come from? But they're very good at providing incentives, if you like, to participate in this type of behaviour. Now, the webcam abuse is not new. It's been happening as long as we've had webcams, which is a long time. But initially, most of the victims of this webcam abuse tended to come from third world countries. That was just, statistically how it worked. But now, there is no difference. If the child takes the bait, away we go. They don't particularly target one demographic or location. So these are general facts about online child sex offenders. Average age is under 30. So they're not particularly old. So kids think that they'll be able to pick an old person because, they're old and they do capital letters and spelling and punctuation in text messages, which of course young people don't. So, they're young. Children won't be able to pick them. These are the top 4 platforms worldwide for child sex offenders, and I've written them in the reverse order. So number 1 is TikTok, 2 is Snapchat, 3 is Discord, 4 is Instagram. Over 90% are not known to their victim in real life. So this gets back to the regularly check your child's devices and their contact list, their game list, whatever list they have, and make sure only people that are known to your child in real life are communicating with them. Could this person come home for dinner? If they could, yes, they can stay there. If they couldn't, get rid of them. It's about being really tough. It's about being really clear. And it's letting your children know that, with the use of technology does come some rules and responsibilities. They rely on your child communicating back. Now, 99% of the world's child population doesn't talk to strangers in real life because they're being taught not to. But that all goes out the window when we're talking about the digital world. They are going to praise them. They're going to pay them compliments, like the same things, have the same interests, empathize with them, and eventually the conversation will turn sexual. So get the devices with cameras and internet connections out of bedrooms and bathrooms. This is another reason and another way to reduce the likelihood of this offending taking place. Any app, game, site, or platform or communication app that allows person A to communicate with person B on it can be used for bullying, harassment, and sharing of nude images. So, yes, some are more likely because, obviously they're popular with kids, and if a kid is what the offender wants, that's where they'll go. But every single one is possible. The Internet Watch Foundation out of the UK does amazing work in this space, and if you're interested in statistics and trends, follow them on socials or sign up to their emails. But they looked at over 2,000 cases of the webcam type child sexual abuse. First of all, they found that 98% were under 13 on platforms they shouldn't be on. So that's why I will never stop banging on about that. Secondly, they looked at where did this happen. The backgrounds in the videos we studied mostly showed the youngsters were in very ordinary home settings, somewhere like a bedroom and a bathroom. Critically, no adult appeared present. So this is why, is it going to stop the problem? No, it's not. Can I guarantee your child will be 100% safe? No, I can't. But it's about chipping away and reducing the risk of potential harms. Now, this was an excellent documentary that aired in Australia last year. And if you are from Australia and you're listening, you may or may not have seen this. If you are situated in Australia, get onto SBS On Demand. I've highlighted it at the top left, and watch the children in the pictures, because it looks at law enforcement, how they work, the tricks that the predators use. It shows the level of international cooperation. And if you have a teenager, once you've watched it, sit and watch it with your teen. It was on free-to-air TV here in Australia at 8:30 at night, which means it wasn't particularly graphic, no swear words or visual images, but you need to watch it first. Now, if you are not from Australia, you can find it on the internet. So it's www.childreninthepictures.org, and you can watch it from their website. You can also find it on YouTube. But it is an excellent documentary that looks at this particular issue, and it's a good awareness raising video, I think, so well worth a look. If you suspect your child is being groomed, now if we look at the legalities of this is a crime regardless of where in the world you are. Child sexual abuse is always a crime. Contact offending is a crime. The making of the images, the taking, the sharing, always a crime. What will change, though, is the response you get from police, and only you are going to know that based on where you live and how things work with your local law enforcement. But certainly in most Western countries, this is taken super seriously. The police jump on it from a great height and do the right thing. One of the things you need to be aware of as well is most of the social media companies and the gaming platforms do work cooperatively with police, despite what the media might say. And most of them have a dedicated law enforcement portal. So, we can't keep bagging the social media platforms because they do work cooperatively with police. If you suspect your child has been groomed based on what you've seen, heard, they might have disclosed to you, whatever it is, please make sure you take screenshots of everything you can, including the offender's account details as much as you can, and print everything out or keep the screenshots. Log off and do not do anything more. Do not engage with the suspect. Do not send them a message. Do not try to trick them. Do not try to lead them on. Don't meddle with your child's account. It's a very normal reaction to try to shut down your child's account. Please don't do that. Police can get data out of closed accounts, but it is much easier out of opened accounts. So we want to make it easy for the police. So please leave everything in situ, and then don't flag the offender's account, and just down to your local police station with everything. If you are in this situation and you are in Australia and you do all of this and you get short shift by the police, which sadly sometimes does happen, please shoot me a message and I will do my very best to help you. But again, if you believe your child is at risk of immediate harm or danger, you must ring 000, 911, or whatever the relevant emergency number is for your location. Problematic and pathological internet use. I used to put that Internet Explorer warning up for a joke. It was like, oh, isn't this funny? But coming from Melbourne, which is the locked down capital of the world for the past 2 years, that has been my life. And I really would like to get off the internet and spend some time out in the great outdoors, or speak to people in person and present in person, which I love doing because it's very hard to engage with your audience behind a screen. But this has been our life. On the flip side, it is absolutely the best benefit of COVID is the fact that we could keep educating young people. We could still remain connected. We could contact our friends and family. So we've got to tick all those boxes. But it certainly did pose some different issues, especially when parents are trying to manage working from home, managing kids schooling from home. And a lot of the rules and the boundaries did go out the window because they had to. There was no alternative. Now, we're getting a little bit smarter when it comes to screen time and what we should and shouldn't be doing. There is still consensus, and it's agreed consensus right around the world from pediatricians, is that no children under 2 should have screens. Now, we're not talking about FaceTiming grandma and grandpa because they live on the other side of the world. Like that's not what we're talking about with screen time. When we're saying no screens for under 2s, it means giving your 18-month-old an iPad and sitting them there for 3 hours with it. So, there's a difference there, and we have to be mindful of that. The big numbers, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours per day, well, they're always going to be a problem. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, or how you're consuming it. Those big numbers are a problem. And, if you are worried about your child's technology use and they're getting antsy and angry and they won't log off when they're called, and you see a change in their demeanor, then you already have a problem. So please do not put it off any longer, right? Jump from a great height and start to put in place rules and boundaries very, very quickly, because it will become even harder to manage if you let it go on. So the thing that we look at now mostly is, what are they doing online? So sure, they're on the internet and they might be there for 3 hours, but what are they doing in that 3 hours? Are they engaged in positive online behaviours, or are they engaged in potential harmful online behaviours? So for example, 2 hours of FaceTiming grandma and grandpa because they live in a different part of the world is going to be much better than 30 hours of being on a pornography site, for example. So we can't always say that longer equals worse. We've got to be discerning about what they're doing. Please get the devices out of bedrooms and bathrooms. Some of the things that kids will come up with include, depending on where you live, I like to listen to music in the shower. Well, that's not going to work if you're on tank water or we've got to bring water from a river. But anyway, Bluetooth speakers aren't that expensive as an option. Alarm clocks, again, go and buy an alarm clock, a digital clock radio, something, cheap and easy. So those devices stay out of the bedrooms and the bathrooms where they can. Now we're sort of back to COVID normal, whatever that is, in that we're not doing remote learning, if you were, but many parts of the world did remote learning mainstream. There are certainly some kids doing remote learning because they're home with COVID, or they're isolating because family members have COVID, etc. But schoolwork always becomes not negotiable. So if it's an hour tonight or an hour and a half, or it's 45 minutes, we have to allocate that time to schoolwork. And then the social is the negotiable. It does not mean that social is not important. It is very important, especially to keep those connections going. But that's the one we can jiggle a little bit rather than the schoolwork. No screens in the hour prior to sleep, and that is just good sleep hygiene for every person, regardless of their age. There is no template that I can give you all to take away and tick all these boxes and follow them and it's all sorted, because every single family is different, their circumstances are different, their risk profiles are different, they live in structurally different houses and all of those sort of things. So for me, it's about trying to help you understand the risk that's out there and things that you need to consider. And then we look at, well, what sort of things can we do to deal with those things we've talked about. So, get the devices out of bedrooms and bathrooms. Well, that's going to reduce a lot of the risk of the nude photos. So that's to me a better way to tackle it, because the template thing for everyone isn't going to work. There is a lot of awful stuff on the internet, and as an adult, most of you will know that. Even if you haven't seen it, you will have heard about, the internet is full of awful stuff. There is content that is illegal, so child abuse material, terrorism type content. It breaks laws right around the world, and governments can have a crack at removing it. Now, it still stays there, but there's penalties for hosting it, so things can be done. But then there's that next layer of content, and I just call it inappropriate content, that doesn't break any laws anywhere in the world, so it stays there. But often parents don't understand that it's there. So these are the websites that encourage suicide, eating disorders, and self-harm. There's a lot of different ones, but these are the three main ones I talk about because these are the ones that I deal with mostly. Mentally well young people aren't going to look for this. It doesn't interest them. It would actually scare them. So you have to become the world's best interest expert in your own child. Notice subtle changes in their behavior, in their demeanor, in their mental health, in their activities, etc., etc. Mentally well young people are not going to look up tips and tricks for, cutting and hiding cuts on their arm, but children that are mentally unwell will. Noting that these are all mental illnesses, and children know that they can go online, they can connect with a community of people who are going to reinforce the negative, remembering they don't see it as a negative. They don't see not eating as a negative. They see that as a positive. So just be aware, and I hope you never need this information, but it's out there just in case, an FYI, that this stuff exists. You need to be aware of it. Now, if wherever you are situated, you can access filtering devices, or there's filters on the way the internet comes into your house, make sure you use those. But a lot of this stuff can't be blocked by a simple internet filter. So again, it's that educating to prevent. Apps, as I mentioned, tend to trend. They also come and go. And for every app I mention is probably 50 others of different names doing the same thing. So these are the main problematic apps that I would deal with regularly, and they're the ones that I read about right around the world as well. So, most of these are consistent regardless of where you live. There is one app that became really popular in the UK a couple of years ago. It was called Likey, and I used to talk about it, and then I stopped because no one here had ever heard of Likey. Last week, I had a mum go, "What about Likey?" My child came home from school and started to talk about it. So, I'll show you where you can go to get some information about an app that you might not know about. But, as much as I don't want you to ever visit Dr. Google, the one thing that Google does well is answer tech questions. So if your child starts to talk about a new app or a game, you can always Google, what is the Likey app? And then your next one would be, is Likey dangerous? Just a couple of statements like that. And then you will be able to pick up articles from around the world that are going to give you a yay or a nay. There are a lot of apps that we call Vault or Decoy apps. So they look innocent. If you saw this calculator on your child's device, you probably wouldn't even notice it, but it doesn't do a calculation. So when you tap it, it goes into a PIN code. And then when you put the right PIN code in, it goes into a folder. So you can hide things in it. So things you don't want your parents and your teachers to see. Noting that no one under 13 should have their own Google Play or iTunes account. It should be a family one where mum, dad, carer, guardian is the controller of what they can actually download. Snapchat, the disappearing photo app, nothing deletes on Snapchat. That's the most important thing to share with your young people. It disappears, it does not delete. Problems with Snapchat include the group chats, the bullying, the harassment, the sharing of nude images, the fact that pedophiles love it, and then there are third-party apps that work within it, and I'll mention some of those in a moment. Kik has been around a very long time, and predators have always loved it. They still do. Whilst they don't find their victim on Kik, like I'm not going to go to Kik to find my next child victim, I will move them onto Kick. So I'll find them on a more mainstream app. I'll move them onto Kick because there's a fair chance that no one will find me here, and they don't have a team of people behind the scenes trying to catch me out. Omegle, another one that's been around a very long time. This is a sex webcam platform where you dial into it and you have a chat with a random person. That other random person that dials into your child will be male, will be naked and doing what naked men do on a webcam. And I would never, ever mention this platform in a student presentation ever. But in about July 2020, I got inundated. No, sorry, 2019 now. I was getting inundated with children in primary school asking me about Omegle. What about Omegle? You haven't mentioned Omegle. So little people know about this. They're on it. They're using it. They're watching naked men. And the reason they know about it is there's another kid at school that knows about it, so they share their knowledge, or they are on YouTube, or they're on TikTok, or they're on Instagram, and then these content creators are talking about it. You know, check out Omegle. It's a lot of fun. You meet a stranger, you make new friends. So what does the gullible young person do? Go, oh, I think I'll just go on Omegle and see what I can find. I'm dealing with girls stripping naked on Omegle in the guise of a bit of a fun activity to do on a Saturday night. Again, if the devices weren't hidden from parents' eyes, they would not be stripping naked on Omegle. So please be very, very careful. OnlyFans is a paid subscription pornography platform. Now, technically, 18 to be there, 18 to view, 18 to subscribe, 18 to be an OnlyFans performer, if you like. But I'm dealing with children much younger than 18 who are consuming the content because they can access a prepaid Visa card, for example, or they are on it selling naked images of themselves as a way to make money. The hype about OnlyFans is enormous. There, if you Google, making money on OnlyFans, you will get the success stories of adults who are making, hundreds of thousands of US dollars a month. And, even $100 a week or $200 a week for a young person is a massive amount of money. And a lot of them take the view that it's their body, they should be able to sell it if they want to. So it's a whole skewed view of normality. It is about the overt and over-sexualization of young people in the media, in advertising, in film clips, etc., etc. But please be aware of this. Talk to the young people in your life about respect for body, respect for self, respect for others, and just keep chipping away at it so you become the loudest voice in their psyche, not, the video clip and the music video. Instagram, owned by Facebook, operated totally separately, or Meta as it's called now. Now, with the Meta suite of products, you do find that different regions of the world will have different functionalities. So that is something that is very common. So for example, Instagram have just rolled out Amber Alerts. So if you're in South America, if you're in the States, you know what an Amber Alert is. They are now going to come up on your feed on Instagram if that child is suspected of being somewhere close to you. So it's a really good thing. The parent dashboard on Instagram is available in the States. It's not available in Australia at the moment. So what you will find, there are some things that will never roll out in different countries. They are country specific. Then there are other things that they roll out progressively. So if you ever read an article about a new feature on Instagram, for example, you need to check where they're talking about, because it might not be relevant to where you're situated. One of the things Instagram did last year, which is really good, is instead of making young users tick a box to say they were 13, they had to put a date of birth in. And by telling Instagram that you were between 13 and 17, what that did, it put in place a whole new level of safety and security. So the default safety settings were higher. Does it mean your child will be safe? No, it doesn't, but it means they will be lots safer than they would have been before. So if you have an older teen that's had Instagram for a few years, check to see whether or not they've got a date of birth in their account. And if they haven't, please make sure they put a date of birth in. And that way they will get the benefits of the extra safety settings. YouTube and YouTube Kids, YouTube is pitched at 13 and above. And of course, there's R-rated content on YouTube. YouTube Kids is an app where the content has been checked. So a much safer place for young people to be. Just remember that it's user-generated content. If they're monetizing their content, there's going to be ads, there's going to be pop-ups. And what I get to see, I think, is sometimes people forget it's the computer. So because we now have smart TVs, which we didn't have 10 years ago, we can watch the internet on a television screen. So I think we sometimes forget that we're watching the internet rather than TV, which of course has gone through a classification system, has been checked. No nasties are going to pop up. I was helping a dad recently, and he told me this story, and he was watching the Bluey cartoon on YouTube on his smart TV with his 4-year-old son. And in the middle of the cartoon, up popped an ad for a female sex toy with a naked woman demonstrating said sex toy. Now, I can tell you now, if that happens to you, A, you won't find the remote anyway. It'll be under the couch. Or your fat fingers won't get the off button happening quick enough. And that little boy said to his father, does mummy have one of these? So, buyer beware is my tip there. Understand that, it's not TV. It hasn't been classified. And you often have to hope for the best. But the YouTube Kids app is a much safer place for little people to be. And there's a timer on it as well. Yubo, this one is nicknamed Tinder for Teens. So kids can hook up with people in close geographic proximity, which is pretty dangerous, as you could imagine. This, works within Snapchat. Spot a Friend is another one that last year or the year before now became quite popular in Australia. So again, kids don't perceive the danger. They don't understand risk and danger. It's, someone that's close by. It's exciting. Why not? There are a range of apps that promote being anonymous. So basically, come here, say what you like, ask whatever you like. No one will know it's you. So that leads to a high level of disinhibition and a high level of cyberbullying. Saraha is one of those, as is Telonym. And again, there are hundreds of these sort of platforms. But again, it's about knowing what your child is using, being there with them, and being able to talk to them about the risks and the dangers and the respectful and responsible use, and make sure that they know no matter what, that they can come and tell you that they have a problem and ask for help. You might not know the answer, and that's not an issue, but if you don't know what the problem is, you can't even begin to help your children. YOLO is another one of the so-called anonymous messaging apps, also works within Snapchat. Scout is another one where you connect with random people, and this time you can put in interests, so you connect with people of similar interests. So you can imagine how well that works with predators. And then TikTok, by volume, #1 app for sexual predators worldwide. And there are so many problems with TikTok, from the platform not being responsive to removing accounts, to the viral challenges that happen. Now, kids have always done dumb things for notoriety, but what you see on TikTok is a whole new level of dangerous. A current one at the moment is called the asphyxiation or the choking challenge, where you either choke yourself or choke someone else to unconsciousness, but not death. And sadly, there are children around the world that have died participating in this. And we've had a large number of kids in Australia where ambulances have had to come to schools because they have participated and passed out. So, you might say, oh, just lots of cute videos of kids dancing and singing on TikTok, but it's all the other stuff that they're going to be exposed to as well. Graphic stuff, the war in the Ukraine, live streaming of suicide by shotgun. We recently, or it was probably a couple of months ago now, had a shark attack in Sydney Harbour. That made the news, but, it was all pixelated. You had to sort of guess what you were looking at, but not on TikTok. So please be aware of, the potential harmful content, and content that you as an adult would not want to watch, let alone a young person who does not have the ability to unsee it. TikTok has received the biggest fine in US history for gathering data on children and selling it. If you are in the US military, you are prohibited from having a TikTok account, for example, because of national security concerns. And if you Google TikTok predator problems, there are over 903,000 articles. So that should just tell you that it's a bit of a problem. Discord, a chat app for gamers, started life as a chat app for gamers. There was a bit of bullying on it. bit of swearing, but nothing more. Enter COVID, enter every second kid using Discord as a free chat app to talk to God knows who, and pedophiles followed. You know, if something is popular with children, it will be popular with predators. And that was just an article, the Discord app used to groom juvenile victims. Now, taking control where you can. Most digital devices in your house, in your community, in your school, in your child's school, if they have them, will have inbuilt controls within them, but they've got to be turned on to work. And again, you might not have the capacity to do that or the knowledge, but again, good old Google do the parental controls for, you know, an Asus netbook work or whatever it is you're looking for. So, you know, hopefully there's someone in your community that can assist. If not, revert to Google, but make sure you use the inbuilt controls that come with the devices. Common Sense Media is a really useful website to get information about apps and games. Now, it's a TripAdvisor system. So if you know TripAdvisor, I go and stay in a hotel and I write a review about the hotel. You go and stay in the hotel too and you write a review, and then our reviews don't match. So it appears we didn't stay at the same place, but we did. So just remember, this is personal opinion. Any review that's written by a young person is probably not going to be one you're going to read. And they also have their own staff writers as well. You know, it's not the be all and end all, but it's going to give you a flavour for the sort of things that might be problematic or otherwise with a particular app or a game. A couple of other things I've just listed as an FYI. Now, Instagram launched parents' guides. They did this throughout 2019, and you can Google them. There's an American version, a UK version, the Australian/Southeast Asia version. And the only reason they do those different versions is, as I said, different features are in different parts of the world. But there is also parental information within the app itself. So you can go into the app and go into the Family Safety Centre and get information. For the under 13s, the safest instant messaging platform is Messenger Kids. It doesn't mean they will be 100% safe. They won't, because nothing is. But it is the safest place for them to be because it's controlled through a parent's Facebook page. You control who they friend, who friends them. There's a timer, no in-app purchases, no ads, and you can get a transcript of all the chats. So that, if you want them to have an instant messaging type experience, that is a better option, not WhatsApp, not iMessage, not any of the others. That is what my Facebook page looks like. Now, I said at the start I'd tell you about some other resources that might be useful or share them with your friends. I know there's a lot of information that I share and it's hard to take in and your head's spinning and it's like, oh my God, what do I do now? So under that more button, that little down arrow, when you click on that, you will find a tab that says videos. I had professionally recorded 10 videos. So it's like this session plus a whole lot more. And it's broken down into like 8 to 13 minute videos, all on separate topics. So you can go back over this presentation if you like, topic by topic. You can just revisit the cyberbullying topic if that's something that you want to do. Obviously, the laws and legislation video is only relevant for Australia. I think I might mention New Zealand laws and I can't remember now, but, you know, just be mindful of the laws and legislation because that was done specifically for this part of the world. But other than that, the content is really good. I post stuff all the time about what I'm doing, where I'm speaking, things of interest, things to be aware of, things that I think are topical. So, you know, if Facebook's your thing, please follow me and you will get really good, legitimate, up-to-date information because one of the things I get very angry about is that people that speak in this space with no qualifications and peddle misinformation, and that is harmful to everyone. Now, this next little device I'm going to talk to you about can be shipped anywhere in the world and every single power point it's suitable for because there's adapters. I have no commercial arrangement with any product. I will not sell my name to anyone, even though I'm asked all the time. So if I talk about a product, it's because I like it and I think it's useful. No more, no less. So this lovely lady here from Melbourne is called Kate Curry. And she invented these boxes. They are called an in-charge box. So this is what it looks like inside. They come in 3 sizes depending upon what you want to charge. And all you do is you put all the devices in at night. You connect them up to the cords for the chargers. Then a cord goes out the back into your PowerPoint, regardless of where you are in the world. You close the lid, you lock it with a key. You take said key to bed and give it a cuddle, which means your child, your husband, your wife, your partner, your whoever will not be able to get to those devices when they're locked away. And you could tomorrow, once they're locked away, leave a little love note on a post-it note on the top, something like, "Hi, Dal, soz, mum took the key to work," smiley face, whatever works for you. But if you put my name in as a discount code, Susan, you'll get a 15% discount. And as I said, that's nothing to me. It's not funding my retirement or anything like that. That is just an offer that Kate provided. So, if you're looking for something like that, that I think is awesome. That is my website. Now you can email me through my website. You'll see the videos tab up there again, right next to Contact Susan. So again, same set of videos as on the Facebook page, but you can choose where you view them if you want to, and they are all free. You don't have to pay for them. If you are in Australia, obviously we have the Office of the E-Safety Commissioner that does amazing work in the digital space. Their website has fact sheets, information about different products and platforms. So use that as a trusted resource. In New Zealand, you have NetSafe that do amazing work. If you're from Fiji, one of my favourite places in the world, you're one of the only other countries in the world that has a dedicated government department looking at online safety. So, for a very small nation, you're doing amazing things. But there's always somewhere you can turn and always someone that you can ask for help. I have 2 books that are available to purchase, and you can purchase them from anywhere in the world, and I will post them to you. Sex, Text and Selfies is 60,000 words all about online safety. It's published by Penguin. It has been printed in New Zealand, so it's meant to be in all good bookstores in New Zealand. Otherwise, purchase online. Raising Resilient Kids is an excellent book that I have a chapter in. So there is one chapter on online safety. There is a chapter on anxiety. There is a chapter on accessing pornography. There is, all different sorts of chapters. So you can buy either or both, whatever might work for you, but they're there as a resource as well. My top tips: please get devices out of bedrooms, out of bathrooms, into places where you can see them to the best of your ability. And if you're an educator, please make sure that there is some level of really, clear supervision for technology use in a classroom, because by the time your eyes focus, the kids will have minimized what they shouldn't have been doing. Have a set of rules, written or unwritten, whatever works for you, about how tech use is going to pan out in your house. Know your children's passcodes and passwords. That is not invading their privacy. That is parenting. The earlier you talk about these things, the better. The more often you talk, the better, but it is never too late to start, ever, ever. Make sure that where you can, you have some sort of filtering program to limit the inappropriate content. Make sure with screen time you're aware of what they're consuming, because the numbers aren't just simple numbers. If your child wants to play a game, play it. If they want to be on an app, be there with them. Make sure you understand how it works, so you can best advise and guide them. Use security settings, use parental controls. They're like a bike helmet. If it's not on your head when you fall off, it doesn't protect you. Making sure they're only engaging with people they actually know is super important, and know what they're doing. Can you know 24/7 what your child is doing when they're a teenager? No, but you've got to have a crack at it. You've got to get, to the 23 hours a day or the 22 hours a day. You've got to do the best you can. Please do not put this in the too hard basket, because your children, even though they will rebel and they will push back, they are actually relying on you to keep them as safe as they can possibly be. So to Gavin and the Upschool team, thank you for inviting me to speak to your audience tonight. To those listening tonight, thank you sincerely for dialing in, and for those watching this at a later date, I hope that you find it useful as well. As I said, I can be messaged, I can be contacted. I'm not hard to find, but I'm not that emergency crisis line. So look local for that. But other than that, more than happy to answer your questions, provide information about what I offer. Schools and other organisations have aeroplane, will travel, and of course have technology, don't even need to leave home. So thanks once again. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and if there are any questions, you can pop them in the chat and I'll do my very best to answer them.
Susan McLean, I would like to say a huge thank you to you. Just to everyone listening around the world, today in Australia is a national holiday, so no one's working today apart from Susan. She's given her time to us very graciously and extremely kind. So I'd like to say a huge thank you from myself and the Upschool team and everybody watching. We have people all around the world tuning in, and everything you said was extremely insightful. I think one reflection, and there's many, many thanks coming in the chat, Susan, just so you know. One reflection that I had from a personal point of view when I first heard you speak was that we fall into the trap of thinking, like you said, that it's okay if they're playing this game and chatting to their friends. I have a friend online. But actually, what we need to know is who is that friend? And if they're using the word friend and it's not someone who comes around for a play date or they go to school with, then we need to know who that friend is, because there's a huge risk right there. And I think what happened in the community that I was working in was we all had a moment of reflection where we quickly evaluated every single risk that was happening in our school, in our home, when we were in the playground, or whether we were accessing technology. And there were so many risks that we're unaware of until we heard you speak.
All right, so there's a few questions here that I can see. I might just grab a couple and ask. One is the risk the same if someone uses TikTok without an account? If you don't have an account, can a predator contact you? Obviously, they can't contact you through that app. But again, you know, under 13, it's a categoric no for being there, because it is just not suitable content. But when you're watching it, you're still going to get the algorithms. You're still going to have inappropriate content fed in the direction of your child. So you have to be extremely careful. The only way we are going to force the hands of these platforms to do better is that if we walk away en masse. And that's not happening. People are tolerating the bad stuff, and they're putting up with it. So there is no monetary incentive to do the right thing because they're still making money. And that's, you know, what we need to make sure that people do is that, you know, when they're not being protected on an app or a platform or a game, they walk away. And that's the best message that you can give them. There's one here about parental controls, what you can see what you're doing on apps. Now, I'll preface this by saying in some parts of the world, these apps are illegal. So I don't know where that question has come from, as in what country of the world, but most of those sort of, I can see everything you're doing in Australia, despite what the platform will tell you, it actually breaches our laws. Different in America, if that person's in America, some of those monitoring apps, you know, watching every keystroke your child does, they're not illegal. I'm not a huge fan of them. I think there has to be a level of trust, not blind trust. There's certainly a time and a place for them. And that normally is if you have a rebellious child that no matter what you do, they'll do the polar opposite, that you have a child that has a learning or an intellectual disability, because they are, you know, they can't see reason because of their disability. They are often overtly sexual when they hit puberty, so that they are a huge issue. So for those sort of children, I think that I need to know what you're doing every keystroke can be useful. But I think for the majority of families, it is rules, boundaries, controls, making sure stuff's locked down, and regularly checking your child's device.
Susan, what about the question about age? At what age do we allow our children to be on their own? My daughter's 16. Hard to enforce this from now.
Yep, that was the next one I was going to. But you know what? They're still a child. You are still the parent. And you will never forgive yourself if they've got a device in their bedroom and it ends in tears. I can promise you that. So there are things that you can do. I mean, the devices must come out at bedtime. Phones should never be in a bedroom, even if they're doing homework on a computer or a tablet, ever, ever, ever. And, there's devices and programs that you can put on, like a modem, where the internet is turned off. I don't care if they're in their bedroom typing an essay, not connected to the internet, go for your life. But it's that internet connection. It is the temptation. If you are managing it well, in that there's rules in place, they can't access the internet, the devices come out at sleep time, all of that, you're going to have to make a judgment. But I get to see the other side of this. And the easiest way to sit down and say, hey, I went to a session tonight, I learned some things that I didn't know, and we are now going to start with a whole new set of rules for technology use in the house. You are still the parent and you can say no.
Is there some, sorry, before we move on to the question, are there some support resources to help parents have that very difficult conversation? Because you can imagine the backlash if you've got a 16-year-old and she's been on Instagram since she was 14, she's had it to herself, and suddenly you say, oh, by the way, no phones in the bedroom, and I need to know who you're talking to and every message you write because I'm worried. Like, are there some resources?
Yeah, so I suppose in my book, I've got tips and tricks on how to talk to kids about this, but it's more, look, there is a time and a place to go. It's all over, Red Rover, and we're stopping. And that's when you're at that crisis level, which we don't want people to get to. But I always say, if you're changing your habits as a result of my talk, use me, right? I don't mind how you use me. I listened to Susan tonight. She gave me information that I wasn't aware of. So we need now to sit down together and work out how this might work for all of us moving forward, because I'm now aware of the risk that I wasn't before. Own up that you hadn't thought of it in the same way, and sit down and put together a family like a family safety contract. There's an example in my book about how this might look for you. Yes, there will be pushback, and it'll be, oh, you don't trust me. No, it's not that I don't trust you. It's I don't trust other people. And you're going to have that same argument when they get a driver's license, because you are going to be panicked about what they do and not so much about them, but the other idiots on the road. So it's sort of the same sort of concept. But as I said, I get to deal with the parent that wished they had said no and didn't. So that's right. You've got to weigh that up. The next one I like is, should schools be concerned about using different sort of apps to store data and elaborate? Well, that's the whole other presentation. Again, yes, they should be worried. And I don't know where that person is geographically located. But in Australia, before any educational institution can use any app or platform in education, a PIA or privacy impact assessment has to have been done and passed. And I can tell you now, no social media platforms will ever pass a PIA, so they can't be used in education. Then, if the school is gathering personal information as per the Privacy Act, and that can be anything from name and address to medical conditions, then they have to have policies in place. They have to obtain consent from a parent before any app or platform is used. It is a minefield that some schools do exceptionally well, and others are on the very reactive end. I'll worry about it when it blows up in my face. So there are some people that are a huge fan of Google. Others wouldn't use Google in education if you paid me. A lot of that is personal choice, and it's based on fear rather than fact. But if the school has done their due diligence, done the PIA, has the policy in place, has the right team of people implementing the tech in the school, it will go as well as it can possibly go. Oh, the ballet question. Oh my goodness. That's another whole other presentation.
We need another hour for that one.
Yeah. Look, again, I don't know where the lady that's asked about ballets come from, but there was a very interesting thing in Sydney a couple of weeks ago where a dance school was disqualified from a ballet competition because the song that they had the little girls dancing to was considered pornographic. Their costumes were inappropriate, so they got disqualified. So that's the concern, because I know where those cutesy images of kids dancing end up. The dance ballet thing. Now, the problem with dance, and I'm not tarring everyone with the same brush, but there is no umbrella governing body for dance. So it is basically every dance school to themselves. You have every right that when your child signs up for dance, that you're signing some sort of permission. Sorry, my phone was just ringing. To be photographed, and they have to seek your consent. And signing consent for photography cannot be a condition of learning to dance. So I'm not sure what you've signed. I'm not sure if you've signed something. And I would be very uncomfortable with other parents filming my child and uploading that to their social media account, because they have no right to do that. A lot of dance academies will have the videographer person, so no one can film, but they have one person filming, and then that every parent gets access to that. The other thing that they need to understand is some families have court orders that legally prohibit photography. So they have to protect that child, and they cannot discriminate against them. So that's a whole other minefield as well. Can you see a history on TikTok like Google and YouTube? Short answer, no. There. Forensic tech people can retrieve a lot of data off devices, but that then that requires you to take the device into a tech expert. What do you do when a kid is attending online school, surfing other sites during class time? That's going to get down to how you manage the internet on the particular device. There are products that you can basically block everything out other than the school portal, for example. But again, it depends where you're actually situated. In relation to what's the best product, what can I use? Again, it's personal choice. But if you're going to Google for what is the best parental controls, make sure when you do that Google search, you insert your country of origin as well. Because otherwise what will happen is you'll pop up a product that's rated highly, but when you go to use it, it doesn't work in Australia because it's from America or something like that. So what is the best parental monitoring software for Australia or for the Netherlands or for America? That's what you need to be doing. Here's one here. Girls couldn't participate in drama unless we signed. No. That is illegal. Can't do that. You can't link participation to photography. And someone needs to be speaking to that drama organisation and saying that that is not on. Oh, there's another one about a friend's house, really hard to. What I suggest is when you drop your kid off for the play date, regardless of where they go, hey, Sarah, thanks for having Millie tonight. Just so you know, we don't allow her to play R-rated games, or we don't allow her to have a device in her bedroom. Could you please make sure while she's at your house, she follows the same rules? So what you're doing is you're imploring that family to help you follow those rules that you have in place. But you can only hope for the best, really.
Okay, should we leave it there, Susan?
Sounds good to me.
Now, Susan, just like to finish by saying another huge thank you to you, obviously, giving us this valuable insight. Very valuable. People will be watching us live, and also this will be on our platform for a very long time recorded. I just want to say that if you are looking for somebody to advise your community, your parents, your teachers, your families on this topic of cyber security, I can't vouch for Susan enough. I've actually, as a school principal, had her talk to my community, and it was the most valuable session in the 4 years that I worked there. It had the highest feedback rating from all of our families. So Susan, we're very thankful to you. I just want to finish by saying thanks for everyone for coming, and just letting everybody know by looking at my camera, if you don't mind, that we are rolling out our new course on July the 19th called Be the Change. It's completely free. If you, your school community, your families, your children are interested in enrolling, all you need to do is scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you straight to the website. Every child who enrolls gets access to Canva Pro completely free, which is worth about $16 per month. But I'd just like to finish by saying, Susan, once again, thank you for giving me your valuable time. It is a bank holiday here in Australia, and we really are so thankful for you for giving us your time on such a busy schedule that you have. And if we can do anything for you in the future and help you out, when we are more than happy to share this platform with you again. So thank you so much, Susan. You've been amazing.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, good night, everybody. Thank you from Upschool. Thank you, Susan. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.
It's Richard Mills from Upschool here. For more amazing free lessons like this one, create a free account at upschool.co, and we can't wait to see you on our platform.